I was married to Emily for 7 years. At first, she seemed perfect, charming, affectionate, intelligent, the kind of woman that made other men jealous and my mother proud. But little things began to change. She got controlling. She'd check my phone, question my tone, ask who I was texting, why I was 5 minutes late. I told myself it was just love, an intense kind, maybe even protective, but it wasn't. It was surveillance. She didn't want a partner. She wanted a puppet. It got worse after she quit her job. She stayed home all day, claiming she needed time to focus on us, but use meant me being watched, criticized, isolated. I couldn't talk to friends. I couldn't go out without being interrogated. Once I forgot to send her a selfie while at work, and when I got home, all my clothes were in the backyard soaked in bleach. And yet, I stayed. I loved her, or at least, the version of her I had first met. I thought maybe she just needed help. Maybe it was anxiety or trauma. So I suggested therapy. She threw a wine glass at me. Months passed, and I began to quietly plan my exit. But before I could act, she did something unexpected. She disappeared. One morning she just didn't come home. No message, no call, nothing. I panicked. Called her family, her friends. No one knew anything. The police told me to wait 48 hours. So I waited, terrified, unsure if she was kidnapped, hurt, or worse. But on the third day I received an envelope in our mailbox. No return address. Inside was a single note. Don't look for me. You don't know who I really am. No signature, just that one chilling line. A part of me wanted to find her. Another part, maybe a darker part, was relieved. I was free. She was gone. I didn't have to look over my shoulder anymore. I tried to move on. 6 months passed. Life started to feel normal again. I was sleeping better. I reconnected with my sister and even started seeing a therapist. Then one night, my sister called me in tears. Emily had contacted her. Not me. Her. She told her she wanted to fight for custody of my 7-year-old niece. My sister was a single mom, and she trusted me deeply. Emily knew that. She was using my niece to get close again, and I knew this wasn't over. I went to a friend of mine, Emily, who worked in cybersecurity. She owed me a favor. I gave her everything I had, old passwords, phone numbers, devices, and told her to dig, legally or not. I needed answers. What she found broke me. Emily had multiple online identities, fake emails, multiple bank accounts. She'd been transferring money without me knowing. She had searched for things like how to change your identity, emotional manipulation tactics, and psychological warfare in relationships. She wasn't unstable. She was calculating. That same night, I got a message from an unknown number. You never knew me. Check the blue box in the attic. It hit me instantly. Emily had always kept a locked blue storage box in our attic. She once told me it was old college stuff. I never questioned it. I found it under piles of Christmas lights and inside wasn't books or junk. It was a collection of photographs, news clippings, and journals. But they weren't about me. They were about another man. His name was Derek Sloan, age 37. Accountant, died 5 years ago. The official report said he'd committed suicide. But on one of the articles, someone had written in red ink, he knew. There were diary entries written in Emily's handwriting. He found out too much. Said I was manipulating him. He threatened to go to the police. They believed a suicide note. I was shaking. Could this mean she killed him? I needed real answers now. I hired a private investigator, Mike Bennett, former NYPD, smart, cold. I gave him everything I had. He looked into Emily's background. A week later, he called me. John, Emily isn't Emily. Her real name is Hannah Slater. She had changed her identity at 17 under court protection. Juvenile records were sealed. But Mike found an old contact, a retired therapist who had worked with high-risk juvenile offenders. She agreed to speak, confidentially. Hannah, aka Emily, had been part of a program for teenagers with extreme manipulation disorders. Not just trauma. These were sociopaths, girls who had learned to mimic empathy, charm, vulnerability, but had none of it. One therapist described her as a blank canvas that paints herself into your perfect dream. And when she's done, she sets it on fire. Mike dug deeper. Hannah had done this before. Multiple identities, several men, always the same pattern. Deep relationship, total control, then vanish, leaving emotional wreckage and empty bank accounts behind. And Derek Sloan? He had been one of them, a previous husband. When he tried to expose her, he died under mysterious circumstances. Emily hadn't vanished. She had moved on to her next life, her next target. Mike traced her current alias. Claire Emerson, living in Nevada, married, again, to a police officer. I sent an anonymous package to that officer with documents, notes, warnings. A week later, news broke that he had been put on leave due to mental health issues. Friends said he was paranoid, hallucinating, seeing threats that weren't there. Sound familiar? I realized something terrifying. She wasn't just abusive. She wasn't just dangerous. She was a predator. And there was nothing I could do to stop her. Legally, she'd covered her tracks. Emotionally, she'd destroyed anyone who stood in her way. But there was one final blow. One night, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. It simply said, "You were always my favorite." I almost stayed. No name, no photo, just that. I stared at that email for hours, not knowing if I was terrified, flattered, or still under her spell. And now, I'm telling my story, not to warn you, not to beg for sympathy, but because somewhere out there she's watching, maybe with a new husband, a new name, a new costume of normal, and I want her to know, I see you. And now, others will too. This was the bitter story.